There are only 5. We put together a package of information, sent it to him, and what he did was that he addressed the Tibet issue in China to his peer, the finance minister. He got in such trouble, but he did it. So you see, there is no one way. You will know when you just cannot sit at home any longer and do nothing. And you will find your way if you're determined to do it. You know, when the Iraqi war was starting, you know, I felt compelled to go out and do something. I felt that I really, like, if enough of us would go and try to stop it beforehand, we might just be able to do it. And we nearly did. We were so close. And now we're having the same script being handed over to us in relation to the Iran war. Are we going to sit home, or we're going to put more effort into it before it's too late? Because we can't stop it. Because we are the state. And people have to remember this. We are the government. We are the state. And so if we are many more than they are, and if we can organize ourselves to show that we are many more, we can do various types of protests. We can do info evenings. We can take over our community halls and show documentaries. There are so many incredible documentaries about the consequences of war. So I think we can all find our comfort zone in doing action. You know, there are so many different ways we can help to shape our communities. But people should never go outside their comfort zone. Now, I have to say, I've been following also the protests very closely and watching live videos from the various occupied camps. And, you know, usually they're just pretty peaceful. In New York, they had a massive soup kitchen for all the homeless people, and they were there for ages. They had a beautiful library. There were people doing yoga there. You know, people were doing all sorts of things, and they were connecting, and they were being inspired. And it is so important. We're not going to do this evolution on our own. We're going to do it with others, and it's so important.
Where does your courage come from? Seriously, and I don't want to leave that out because it requires not only being called to do something, it also requires a decision in the realm of courage. So where do you draw your courage from?
To be honest, I have no idea. I don't really know fear. You know, I really don't care what people think about me. Not enough, at least. It does impact me a little bit, but never enough to stop me from doing what I feel needs to be done. And I think we all have this in us. But many of us have been conditioned to not listening to our hearts and intuition. One of the things that helped me the most is I've always known what I want. I've always known exactly what I want. When I decided I was a poet when I was 14, my mission was to get my first book published by Iceland's biggest publisher. And then I achieved that when I was like 21 or something. And then I thought, my dream is too small. And then I rethought what I wanted to do, and I determined to myself that I wanted to have an impact, a positive impact on my world. And I just did it in my little ways. I think if people know where they're going, they will go there. But you have to know, I think my biggest strength is I understood very early on that if I don't help my neighbor put the fire out in his house, my house is going to get on fire. And this, you know, in general terms means that I care for other people enough to go out and help them, even if it's not about my own need. I don't know where I learned these things. I've always known that if I'm suffering, going out and helping somebody that's suffering more is going to make me feel a lot better.
I really appreciate your personal candor. At the time in which some of these videos, like collateral murder and other types of information where all of these emails were leaked of people that were in government, let's say here in the United States, part of the criminalization of this type of activity, I believe, comes from a blanket assumption of ownership and jurisdiction of everything from the government's perspective. And therefore, people that are peace-oriented, that are trying to make the world a better place and not supporting war and secrecy, etc., are considered enemies to a military-industrial complex. The fact that collateral murder was released without military permission is being turned into an enemy act to that military and to that military industrial complex from the government and military perspective. Even though it's a total violation of human rights and what happened was an atrocity of galactic nature, there's a baseline assumption, and that is that everything and anything goes, and it's their prerogative. This is really paradigms and consciousness that are not in coherence with each other. That's why laws are created to demonize people that are standing, if you will, outside of the grid of the military-industrial complex consciousness. This is really a fight for consciousness. I understand the independent wins, the good things that can happen along the way to ultimate change, and that a butterfly in one part of the world can impact what's happening in another part of the world. That's how sensitive we all are. That's how sensitive everything is. So change can happen in a moment's notice, and everything can become different. I think that's part of the good news that you're talking about. It's not like there has to be hundreds of years of hell to get a little bit of change. A major change of consciousness can happen in a moment where everything becomes different. And to be indwelling in that while we're doing whatever we're doing that can make the world a better place and make life better, I'm in total agreement with. With respect to this ownership issue, what do you think about the fact that consciousness in terms of the military paradigm is ownership oriented and everything and anything goes? What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think that's a very interesting way of seeing it, and sort of makes sense. And I think that it's important to know that, within this complex, there are many great people. There are many great soldiers that have actually started to blow the whistle on how things really were within the war and the impact it had on them. But, when you look at the big matrix around both the corporate and the military complex and just power in general, there's nothing that corrupts a person more than power if you are not humble with it. So you have this incredible power in relation to the military complex. And of course, those that have power don't want to give it away, and it's really up to us to create a counterbalance, to have enough people to create a counterbalance of ownership of what is ours. I call these times we're living at times of quickening, where everything happens really quickly. You think one thing and all of a sudden it's just happening. Like in my case, I'm thinking, it would be so great to speak to this person. This person has inspired me so much. And all of a sudden I'm talking to the person that I would never have dreamt of having a chance to speak to. I've had lunch with Dalai Lama. I never started my work for Tibet to have lunch with Dalai Lama, but that was an incredibly big bonus. So I think we have to remember the word revolution, and we have to put the R into brackets and look at what is left of the word, and that's evolution. So with the revolting spirit, which is the spirit of change, of movement, out of the stagnation, we will counterbalance what we need to counterbalance. We feel we're under siege, but we're not. That is a perspective. So everything will change the way we change our perspective, and it all starts within us. Nothing's ever going to change unless we start inside ourselves, and we have that revolution in our own heart, and we revolutionize how we do things in our daily lives. This is so important. We are so incredibly powerful, and we are much more powerful when we work with others. Then our power is magnified. Just like when you chant with somebody, when you chant alone and then you chant with three, the difference is phenomenal. The same if you do meditation with people, more than one, it's incredible how it magnifies. And the same things applies to all our actions. And I think the only thing to keep in mind is that we're acting out of our heart, our gratitude towards all what life is. But we have to apply action to it. And it's not scary. There is so much power in your action if you do it with the right intent.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you would like to find out more about Birgitta, the member of the Icelandic parliament for the movement, and activist and poet and inside and outside the